What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Neighborhood Podcast. One of the hosts of the podcast, my name is Kyle Dabro. So, in this video, we're going to go over our Week 4 power rankings in the NFL. We had some great performances from this past week, but we're going to condense these power rankings to our top 10 teams. So, we'll start at number 10 and then work our way down to number 1. So, starting at number 10, I've got the Las Vegas Raiders. They're coming off of a tough Monday night loss to the Los Angeles Chargers. The Raiders didn't particularly play well in the first half of this game. They were down 21-0 at halftime. Granted, they did battle back against LA, cutting the deficit to 21-14, but it just wasn't enough to overcome the deficit over LA. The Raiders are still a good team, so I wouldn't say that all is lost with the Raiders at this point. They're in a three-way tie with the Chargers and the Broncos for first place in the AFC West. They're playing the Chicago Bears next week, so Vegas could definitely bounce back in a big way against Chicago next week. And the Raiders are still a team to contend with in the AFC. So definitely do not sleep on this team. Even though they took the loss to the Chargers last week, this is still a good team to roll with. So I have them at number 10 in this week's power rankings. At number 9, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs. This was a great bounce back win for the Chiefs after losing their last two games against the Ravens and the Chargers. I thought Patrick Mahomes was sensational against Philly. He threw for 5 touchdowns, 3 of which were to Tyreek Hill. And it looks like offensively, they are rounding into form going into the month of October. But defensively, this team still has issues. They've given up over 30 points the last 3 games, and that's going to be the main concern moving forward for KC. They're going up against the Buffalo Bills next week, who just put up 40 points against Houston. The Bills have one of the most high-powered offenses, not only in the AFC, but in the NFL as well. So this is going to be a big test for KC. Good win against Philly, but their big test is coming up against Buffalo next week. So definitely stay on the lookout for that game. And I have them at number 9 in this week's power rankings. So at number 8, I've got the Ravens. The Ravens just continue to find ways to end up in the win column. They've won 3 straight games, and I thought beating the Broncos on the road last week was big for them. Lamar Jackson's definitely carrying this team offensively, but the end result is it's working. He didn't turn the ball over last week. He was relatively efficient, and he continues to marvel with being able to extend plays with his feet. And I will say that the defense has improved over the last few weeks. They've only given up 26 points in the last 2 games. Granted, it's been against the Broncos and the Lions, and the Broncos did lose Teddy Bridgewater to a concussion in that game. So, granted, it's not the best teams, but still, only giving up 26 points in the last 2 weeks, that's definitely impressive. They carry a 3-1 record against Indianapolis next week, so there's definitely a good chance that they could end up 4-1 after week 5. And they're definitely going to need to keep winning because the AFC North has been quite competitive this year. They're in a 3-way tie with the Bengals and the Browns as well. So Baltimore's definitely going to have to keep it up to stay in contention with those teams. At number 7, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. Big win against the Las Vegas Raiders this past weekend. The Chargers were going up against the Raiders, who were coming into this game undefeated and had been one of the more competitive teams in the AFC. But from beginning to end, I thought the Chargers played outstanding. They went up 21-0 at halftime against the Raiders. Granted, the Raiders did come back in that game, but the Raiders did step up when it mattered the most, and they were able to win the game by the score of 28-14. I think Justin Herbert's looked sensational this year. He has been just nothing but short of phenomenal this year, and he continued that success going up against Vegas this past week. And I do expect that the Chargers are going to continue their winning ways for the foreseeable future, and they're going to need it because, kind of similar to what I mentioned with the Ravens, they are in a 3-way tie with the Broncos and the Raiders at the top of the AFC West, and then you got KC right behind them. So the Chargers are definitely going to have to continue their winning ways, but this was a huge statement win against Vegas, and that's why I have them at number 7. At number 6, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Look, they had a big-time performance over the Carolina Panthers this past week, and the Panthers were the ones who were coming undefeated into this game against the Cowboys. Just a huge win for them. They won by the score of 36-28. Dak Prescott looks to be in midseason form already. That thunder and lightning combo they have with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard is impressive. And the Cowboys defense has looked outstanding so far this season. Trevon Diggs has 5 interceptions already. and we're only a month into the season. There's a very good chance that he could end up with double-digit interceptions if he continues his success through this first month of the season. They play the Giants next, so it'll definitely be a good NFC East game to watch this upcoming week. But Dallas is a legit team this year, and do not sleep on this team. This is a far cry from what they were last year, but granted, that was because Dak got hurt. But Dallas is legit and definitely a team on the rise, and that's why I have them at number 6 in this week's power rankings. So number 5, I have the Bucks. The Buccaneers are coming off of a tough win against the Patriots this past weekend. Brady didn't look particularly sharp against his former team, but he did do enough to win this game. Just the one issue for this team is the amount of injuries they are racking up, especially in their secondary. Carlton Davis looks to be out for the foreseeable future. He had either a quad or a groin injury, and it looked to be particularly serious. And Antoine Winfield Jr. left with a concussion last week against New England. So the injuries are definitely starting to mount up for them. And I think that's going to be a main issue for maybe the next couple weeks for this team. But they are playing the Dolphins next week, and the Dolphins really aren't that good of a team. So it looks like they can definitely improve to 4-1 after week 5. They do kind of take a step back from last week. I think I had them at the number 3 spot last week. They dropped down to number 5, but this is still a good team to roll with. I think once they get past these injuries, they'll be fine. But that's why I have them at number 5. At number 4, I have the Buffalo Bills. The Bills just absolutely beat the brakes off of the Texans last week, winning 40-0. The Bills are arguably the best team in the AFC, in my opinion, because their offense and their defense are just rounding into form, and they have been marginally better since that week 1 loss to the Steelers. And kind of like what I mentioned with KC, the Bills are going to have a real test going up against the Chiefs in week 5, and it is just going to be fun to watch the rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. Josh Allen has been nothing short of sensational so far this year. He's starting to light it up, but that defense has been phenomenal this year. They've pitched 2 shutouts in the last 3 weeks, and I don't think they're going to pitch a shutout against KC. KC's offense is way too high powered, but the Bills can definitely run it with KC, and in my opinion, I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC, and that's why I have them at number 4. At number 3, I have the Rams. The Rams, to be honest, they got blown out by the Cardinals. I thought that the Rams were the best team in the NFL last week after they handled the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pretty easily in that week 3 matchup, but in week 4, I just didn't think they looked that good. You know, you got to give credit to the Cardinals. The Cardinals did definitely step up in that game, but the Rams just couldn't get much offensively going. They only had 13 points throughout most of the game. Granted, they did score a garbage time touchdown in the fourth quarter, but defensively, they had a letdown game. They gave up 37 points to the Cardinals. And I think if you're the Rams, there's not too much to panic here. The Rams are still one of the best teams, not only in the NFC, but in the NFL as well. So I think that this is just a bad loss. You know, you take it in stride and you just look to improve upon, you know, what you missed in week 4. And I think this team can definitely bounce back in week 5. So I'm not too worried about the Rams. They do take a couple spots back in this week's power rankings from last week, and that's why I have them at number 3. At number 2, I have the Packers. The Packers just continue to roll. They beat the Steelers 27-17 in week 4. They've won 3 straight games. Aaron Rodgers just continues to marvel for them, and they've come a long way since that week 1 debacle against the Saints. You know, they look like they're going to be the best team coming out of the NFC North, which is not much to say. The NFC North is pretty weak this year, but the Packers are just head and shoulders above all of those teams. And when I currently look at the situation with the Packers, I do think at this current moment, they are the best team in the NFC outside of the Cardinals. And that's where I'm going for the number 1 spot. I got the Cardinals at the number 1 spot. So the Cardinals had probably one of the best performances I've seen all year, going up against the Los Angeles Rams on the road, and they just dominated them from beginning to end. Kyler Murray was sensational. Chase Edmonds and James Conner were sensational out of the backfield as well. But defensively, they stepped up, and that was kind of one of the biggest concerns that I had with this team going into this matchup against the Rams. But they proved to me that they have overcome some of the issues, especially within their secondary, and pitched one of the best defensive performances I've seen all year, because the Rams have a very high-powered offense with Matt Stafford leading the way. But give credit to the Cardinals. They have really rounded it into form very nicely. Kyler looks like he's definitely in the MVP discussion at this point. And there's not much else left for me to say about the Cardinals. This team is on a roll. They're currently the last undefeated team in the NFL. And I think they could definitely continue their winning ways. You know, they've come a long way in probably the last couple of years, but it's really due to part of Kyler's success and their defense stepping up in a big way. So congratulations to the Cardinals for their early season success so far. And I definitely think that this is a team to really contend with in the foreseeable future. But with that said, you guys, that'll pretty much wrap it up from me. If you guys like the video, hit that like button below. And if you guys want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, hit that subscribe button below. Any sort of support for the channel that we can get, Kevin and I definitely appreciate it. That'll pretty much wrap up most of the segments that we have for today. We'll definitely be focusing on the Thursday night matchup that will be upcoming later this week. So definitely stay tuned for that. But it's like I said, thank you guys for tuning in to watch the video, and we will see you guys later.